Hello, good morning. Thank you for joining News Desk. I am Bernice Abubeidulansa. Ahead in this edition, one person dead after NPP and NDC supporters clashed close to Electoral Commission office at Nkrankwanta in the Dormaa West District of the Bunu region. We bring you details as police deploy more personnel to the area to prevent reprisals. Also, the EC attributes rise in conflict as registration centers the failure of political parties to adhere to rules and regulations. And in business, ISA warns the suspension of Fiscal Responsibility Act 2020 could affect Ghana's credit rating. We've got details of these plus sports, what happened in the UEFA Champions League. You don't want to miss any of it. Do stay with me. Thanks for your company. The details now. One person is dead after supporters of the governing MPP and opposition NDC clashed over the weekend at Nkrankwanta in the Dormaa West District of the Bunu region. Now, the deceased has been identified as Kofi Stephen. Two other people who are said to have sustained gunshot wounds are currently receiving treatment at the Dormaa Hinkro Presbyterian Hospital. The incident is said to have occurred close to the Dormaa West District office of the Electoral Commission Saturday during the mop-up voter registration exercise. It's not clear what sparked the violence, but we've been hearing from the NP from Dormaa West as well as the former NP who have been recounting what led to that incident. We'll bring you details of this, plus speak to the police and get their account as well. We'll bring you details of that later shortly, but we'll still stay on election-related matters because the EC has been talking about what has been resulting or leading to voter violence during the voter registration exercise. But the parliamentary aspirant for Dormaa West, Vincent Toponga-Samoa, has denied the claims of the current NP, who is NPP, who has been alleging that NDC thugs went to the party office, their party office, creating violence. We'll be bringing you all those details shortly, but let's speak to the Adom FM correspondent in the region, Donyima. He has joined us with details of what actually happened. Thank you so much. What information do you have about what exactly led to the violence?
Thank you so much. We had information last morning that there was a clash between NPP and NDC supporters at Nkrankwanta, that's Dormaa West District capital. But when we got there, as we all can see, a pickup branded COVID-19 had been burnt and a motorbicycle belonging to the NPP. The NDC made a press conference yesterday, the NPP made a press conference yesterday claiming that the NDC barred in tax from Sankore and
apologies, we seem to have a very bad line there, but that's Adom FM's correspondent in the Bunu region, Dominic Donyina, trying to give us some account or give us details of what he's picked up on what exactly caused the scuffle over the weekend leading to the death of one person. I understand he's back. Sorry, we lost you there. You were telling us what led to the violence.
Yeah, as I was saying, the NPP made a press conference about 3 weeks ago that the NDCs were busing foreigners, preferably Ivorians, to be registered, of which the NDC, the NPP resisted. So I learned the chiefs of the area met these two political parties and spoke to them to make peace for the area. The NDC also denied any knowledge of busing foreigners to the area. There was an incident where an NDC member named Efo attacked one NPP agent at one of their registration centers, and
too bad technology doesn't seem to be a friend today, and Dominic Donyina was just telling us what led to this violence. But before he gives us more details...
that man was a problem. What part of this clash again? When we got there, but a pickup belonging to the NPP youth organizer had been burnt, and then motor bicycle also belonging to one NPP member were also burnt. When we spoke to the NPP, they made a press conference yesterday accusing the NDC that the NDC buzzed in tax from Sankore and Kasapen in an region to attack them simply because they resisted the NDC from registering Ivorians. And that was the reason why they thought that the NDC brought in those macho men to attack them. And in the course of that, there were gunshots from security personnel, military men were there, police officers were there, fire service and other security personnel were all there. So according to them, there was a gunshot. And they alleged that one military man shot their member called Kofi Stephen, popularly known as Kofi Labette, who was shot in the waist and died shortly. Two other people also sustained gunshots. One Malam Iliasu and then Kwame Grutan, who is an NDC member. Two people were NPP supporters, and then Kwame Grutan was an NDC supporter. They are currently on admission at one is at Kankwanta Polyclinic, and then the NDC supporter is also currently in Senior Regional Hospital for treatment. But the NDC denied any knowledge of busing tax as claimed by the NPP. But Honorable Sirapans Asamoah, former MP for the area, and the PC for the NDC, however, accepted that, yes, there were a clash between the two parties, and those guys who were involved were party supporters of both NDC and NPP from the area, from Kankwanta. According to him, there were no Sankore as claimed by the NDC. And then when we also asked him what he had to say about the burning of the pickup and then the motorbikes, yes, he said they were burnt, but he cannot accept it that his party supporters burnt because during the clash, anybody at all could have caused that. All right. Anybody at all, not, yeah.
Dominic, can you tell us if this event is just a one-off thing, or there's been a festering problem between supporters of these two parties in the district?
Anyone who knows Kankwanta very well will be surprised of this incident. The place is a peace-loving area, very calm area. So nobody ever thought that this could happen in the area. But because of what happened at Banda and other areas, we are not that much surprised, because you know, during this time, most of these things do happen.
Okay,
but we are very surprised at the degree. Yeah.
I'll have you hold on here and let me speak to the Bono Region Police PRO, Chief Inspector Augustine Kingsley Opong, for the police's side of this incident. Thank you so much for joining the program this morning, sir. Chief Inspector, what are you able to tell us? What information has police gathered on what exactly led to the violence?
Thank you, my sister, for giving me this opportunity. Greetings to all your cherished listeners. My sister, on the eve of August, at about 5:35 p.m., some of our leaders were in front of the UC office, Kankwanta, and they were communicating with the EC officers because they were about to wrap up their duty for the day. They saw at a distance, about 500 meters away from where they were standing, that some people seemed to be fighting. So they called for the men around. If I say men, the police and the military men around to go and find out what's happening. When they went there, they were like free to all fighting. They were fighting each other. You will not be able to denote between MPP and DC. So police tried to stop and bring peace, but nobody will listen. Due to this, some men were called to come and add to the policemen and military who were there. And, you know, when we have a situation like this, we have what we call graduation force. You start talking and then you increase the situation as per how you repel those people who are involved in that. It led to the using of rubber bullets to disperse the people. It was after they have all run away from the place that we realized there was one guy who was lying there with people around, helped the police to take him to the hospital. And it was at Dormaa Presbyterian Hospital that the doctor declared him dead on arrival. So
he died as a result of a bullet wound from...
We are suspecting that it's a bullet wound.
From the police or from...
That will come out when we establish an investigation to find out some aspect of the things that went wrong there.
Were any of those engaged in the violence armed?
Yes. We overheard shooting, sound of weapons from those who were running away. So it means that some of them were armed.
Have you made any arrests so far?
Yes. So far we have arrested 3 persons who are assisting police for our investigation.
Are you able to...
now at Dormaa Divisional Command.
Are you able to tell us who these people you arrested were?
For now, no.
What's the current mood in the area, Chief Inspector?
There's a calm mood. I heard somebody, is it your reporter who was reporting? And I love the way he went about it, that the place is a very good place. That was where I did my national service. So I know that they are loving people. They don't like violence. But no one can understand why there's some behaviors have degenerated into this state. But notwithstanding, that is how human beings are. We are dynamic. So my sister, the place is calm. Nobody is fighting anyone.
Are your men still on the ground and the military as well?
We have even beefed up. We don't want any situation whereby laxity can lead to any mishap.
All right. Thank you very much. Chief Inspector Augustine Kingsley Opong speaks for the Bono Region PRO. Let's now get a sense of how the NDC as a party feels about all of this. Barbara Sewa Samoa is Deputy General Secretary. Thank you for your time this morning, Madam. What's your reaction to this? Your men are involved. Some of them, we understand, injured.
Thank you very much, and good morning to your listeners. It's rather unfortunate, Dennis, that a simple registration exercise has led to the death of somebody. This is not the first time somebody has died as a result of this exercise. Someone died in Panda, Ahinkro, and then we are hearing another one, all in the Bono region. I don't think it's a good thing at all. Unfortunately, what we are hearing is that this particular incident that led to the death of this gentleman was actually led by the NPP MP for Dormaa West. and some hoodlums who were following him, causing mayhem and intimidating people in the constituency, especially at the registration where the mop-up exercise was taking place. And this has led to the death of somebody. I don't know whether he's innocent or he was part of the whole thing.
All right. Right, Madam, we've received videos of the NPP's office in the district vandalized, and the NPP MP is also accusing your party members of attacking them without provocation. What would you say in regards to the violence meted out to the NPP and their office?
Okay, so what we have heard, or what happened there was that when the mop-up exercise started in the morning, the NPP, led by their MP and their hoodlums, besieged the Electoral Commission office where the exercise was taking place and prevented anybody who was not NPP member from going to the center to register. And this went on till 2 p.m. when the NDC alerted the police that they could not stand by and watch their people being disenfranchised. So they also decided that the police must intervene so that their people can go there and register. And so the police came to the registration center, and then I heard some military men were also invited to the place. That was when our people even started going to the polling. That was around 2 p.m. in the afternoon. So when they got there, the FPP tax, led by their MP, prevented them from registering, and that is what led to the shooting. We don't know whether it was between the military, the police, and the MPP tax, because they were the ones who were wielding arms. Our people didn't go to the place armed. And so what we hear is that after the incident happened, the community stood up and said that enough was enough. They had gone through intimidation since the beginning of the registration. And that day was the last day of the registration. They were not going to allow the people to keep intimidating them. It wasn't the NDC. It was the whole community that stood up for their rights. And then it culminated into violence. The police came in. The MPP people started shooting indiscriminately. As you know, when I listened to the ending part of the inspector's speech, he does not even know who shot the gun that killed
they are investigating that matter, so we'd have to wait.
But they know that it was the NPP people who were using arms.
Well, he's not able to establish which side.
I'm sure if it was anybody who was known to be affiliated to the NDC, he would have known by now. And since he himself said that they don't know the person, then we will believe that what our people are telling us is the truth.
Okay, so briefly tell us what the party is doing in regards to trying to solve the problem in the district and also attend to your members who have been injured as a result.
For now, I understand one of our people was also hit by a stray bullet. He is receiving treatment at the hospital now. We have spoken to our people, and then calm has returned to the place. We expect that the police will take over, do a thorough investigation, and bring the perpetrators of this heinous acts to book. We don't like the situation where they will keep investigating and then nothing happens, and then the people are emboldened to continue acting. We as a political party are going to put together all of these incidents, and we are going to follow up to make sure that whoever created the problem is brought to book by the police.
Are you looking at probably putting in mechanisms within your party on how some of these matters at the district level are reported and amplified to the national level, so your members at the grassroots do not resort to violence when they have issues like this?
Most definitely. We have always spoken to our people to always remain calm, because these are armed attacks and we cannot arm our people. And so we have always spoken to them to remain calm. The national executive will take it up. Yeah, like I said, we are compiling all the cases of shooting and whatever that has taken place in all the various polling stations, registration centers, and we are going to make sure that we collaborate with the security agencies so that they will take up the issue and do their work. Once the people are assured that the security agencies will bring the perpetrators to book, I am sure that they will not take the law into their own hands.
Thank you very much for your time. Barbara Sawa Samuel is Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, telling us a bit on what the party as a whole feels about the incident at Dormaa West over the weekend. And the MP for the area, Aliu Maiga Alidu, joins us via phone. Thank you for your time. You've been accused of leading thugs to perpetrate this violence. What's your reaction, sir?
Good morning, my sister.
Good morning.
Good morning to your cherished viewers and listeners. Barbara, it's not true. We don't have thugs in Dormaa West, and we don't have any causing mayhem in Dormaa West. But let me give you the gist of the issue. The whole issue has to do with the foreigners coming to Ghana to register. In Dormaa West, we have Ivorians who travel all the way from Côte d'Ivoire to register, and we have the target towns are Quaicoe Chrome, Chrome, Nkankwanta, Yaosu Chrome, and Diaba. These are border towns that the Ivorians come. So when we are about doing the registration, we already checked the old voter register. Then we realized that, and we had about 3,000 votes in Côte d'Ivoire. And our intelligence, 2,000 people that register are from Côte d'Ivoire. Then our intelligence also showed that NDC has bought about 10 motorbikes with this motorcade, that small motorcade into Côte d'Ivoire to bash them. So as a party, we mapped up a strategy. We mapped up a strategy, and our strategy was simple. We were doing 10 registration at a time. So what we were doing is that our border towns, as for them, they interact with the Ivorians, so they know them. So we do 10 from all the border towns. And when they go, one each from each of the border towns, they sit about 100 yards away. And their rule is simple. Once the Ivorian guy comes, we identify him as an Ivorian from the area. Either we alert the immigration officers to take them because border is closed, or we prompt our agent to challenge them. So this is the exercise that we've been doing for the whole period. Then at the mop-up, our intelligence was that NDC thinks that it's one polling station, so one registration center. So they will bring them. But when they come and they think that they are from any part of the town, our agent, they won't know. So you put these boys in an uncompleted assembly building. And there was simple. Once we see that avoiding from the area going to the registration center, just call our agents there, give him the description, the set description, so that we can be duly challenged. And this is that we were doing. You know what happened? We were there when we heard that the NDC has brought tax from Kasapin, Sankore to come and attack our boys. I personally went there to where our boys are, to tell them that we are not here to attack anybody. What we are here to do, we just do the identification. Then police brought reinforcement, soldier reinforcement from the division. Then I told them, there is police reinforcement, division enforcement, so please be calm. Nobody will attack you. And I left for a funeral. So I was there when my youth organizer, my research officer called me that this is going to happen. So when I came, the narration was that the research officer was going to town to buy food. Then one NDC guy he knows stopped him. So he stopped on his motorbike. Then the thugs they brought from Sankore attacked one of the research officer. And then the research officer went to report. So when he reported to our boys that there had been attacked, my driver stepped forward because I've taxed my driver, the guy who died, and what is his name? One guy called Umbo, and the youth organizer to control the boys. So we don't want them to move out. Once they move out and Ivorian comes, we can identify the person. So we give them food, everything in there. So my driver crossed the road and told the master, look, don't do this. This is what you do, and you bring chaos. This is what will happen. So So as my organizer, my driver was there, they started shooting catapults at him. So our boys came, rescued my boy, and wanted to have a clash with the NDC guys. So when these guys ran away, so unfortunately they caught one and they attacked him. So when they caught, they attacked him. The other NDC guys ran away. Then the security stepped forward, and from the one to the man said, "In P, to wait. You've seen that you've killed him."
So, Ms. Alidu, were you or any of your men armed?
No. If both NDC and MPP, the arm each of them may have is just a catapult.
Okay.
No, catapult. Yes, catapult.
Catapult.
They were shooting catapult.
Okay.
None of that was. So the security rather shot at our boys.
Okay.
So every single shot you see was from a security guy. In fact, when I made the dissect and I made the security, I made them aware that we know them. We've identified them. In fact, the regional commander was here the night the incident happened, and we identified one soldier, and they know them. In fact, the division commander knows the police. We've identified the police guy.
Fine. Let me just ask you briefly. Was this a warning shot, or was a shot aimed at the person?
No. They shot at the boys. That's why one of our guys died. He died of gun wounds. One is at the hospital right now, as we speak. So the security shot at our boys.
All right.
Our boys directly. I'm coming. You know what makes it so sad is that a soldier man asked my youth organizer to go away. So he sat in his car. Then the policeman shot at the tires of the car, deflated the tires. My youth organizer got out of his car, gave his car key to one inspector collateral that they've demobilized my car. So take the keys. In the presence of the security, NDC guys came out from the bush, turned one of the cars, then one motor. The security destroyed all other motors, amounting to about 20.
So if I get you right, this would not have reached this point but for the way the security personnel handled it. Exactly.
And I've made this point clear to any security guy who had been in a meeting with the dissect, the regional police commander, the regional army commander. I've told the divisional commander, everybody, that if the security has been modest, this wouldn't have happened. In fact, they even chased my boys into the bush and they followed them up in the bush with their guns. And we have evidence and everything.
All right.
So we can't deny.
All right. Thank you very much.
What NDC tax did was to slap our research officer, burn our car, burn our motorbike in the presence of security, then walked about 400 meters to our party office in the presence of the security to vandalize our office. This is what we attribute to the NDC. As for any shooting that occurred in the security, who did it?
Ms.
They shot at MPP, our men, but not NDC.
But we know of some NDC persons who've also sustained gunshot wounds. But thank you for your time this morning.
Well, it's not true. No NDC person has sustained gun injury. Two people sustained gun injury. They are all MPP.
Okay. All right.
Make it clear.
Well, our correspondent says otherwise. But thank you for your time. Ali Umaiga Alidu is MP for Dormaa West, sharing his side of the story there, squarely laying the blame at the foot of security officials there. Now, the National Youth Organizer of the NDC, George Opariado, says the deployment of military personnel to some border towns in the Volta region and areas in the north was deliberately done to intimidate prospective voters in some of these areas considered to be strongholds of the party. In an interview with Roland Walker, he said such actions could only create lack of trust in the political atmosphere ahead of the polls in December.
You see people in military uniform going around registration centers and asking people to leave queues. And then the military comes out to dispute. What are they disputing? That it didn't happen, or the videos we saw, we went out there and gave the people the uniforms to wear. If the military is disputing those actions that were taken, what we expect the military to do is to hold those people who went out there responsible and say that we did not ask you to go and do this. Well, is it also not true that there were military presence in Volta region? Is it also not true that the district chief executive of Quaicoe South was going around registration centers arousing people? So what were they disputing? But you see, Roland, all that we said was things that played right before our very eyes. We said that the Electoral Commission was undertaking this exercise because the NPP and Nana Addo Dankwa wanted a new register. The reasons are very simple. One, to suppress votes in the NDC strongholds. Two, to do a new register so that they will get their minors registered in their strongholds. Three, to do this new register, not because, one, the register is bloated, two, not because the equipments were obsolete, because the manufacturers of the first equipment came out to tell us that that argument that was being exposed by the Electoral Commission was lame and not true. So they went out there to do this because of what they wanted to achieve. And the simple thing was voter suppression.
That's about minus. You had party representatives all over the registration centers. How do you make those conclusions?
How do we make those conclusions? Because it's happened. It is a clear case of sending the military to intimidate people and force our agents out. The number of violence that has been recorded during this exercise. And you rightly said, we held various press conferences and we put out the facts. Everything we put out there, they've only come to say it is not true, but they've not come out with alternative facts. Until they come out with alternative facts and tell us that these videos we are seeing are not real, and that it's somebody else who has put together and pieced these videos together and they are fake. They've not been able to do that. Is it not true that our Kunsi went to a polling station and guys following her went shooting? Is it not true that a young man called Salas was murdered in Banda?
Well, on the other hand, the national youth organizer of the NPP, Henry Nana Boakye, indicated the opposition NDC has misconstrued the mandate of security persons deployed within the registration period just to gain political capital from the allegations, while also making efforts to undermine what has been a well-organized voter registration exercise.
I find the submissions of Ofayado very, very disingenuous.
Which one?
I mean, all the things he said, because you see...
Did you see the videos?
I'm coming. I'll come to that. First of all,
as
I said, he said, yes, as I said, the Electoral Commission designated more than 6,500 registration centers. And the only places we saw the presence of military were 2 constituencies.
That's not true.
Oh.
That's not true.
I'm coming.
That's not true. You don't have the facts. Let me help.
Hold on.
Because you deployed them, you don't know where you even deployed your
military. Today he's been very...
yeah.
Oh, today he's been... Yeah.
You see, it was in Banda, and Banda, we all know what happened there. There were some clashes, and, you know, when we have such registration, obviously, you know, interests are heightened, and if you are not careful, you have some places where it will just degenerate into wild violence. So that can happen, and unfortunately one person lost his life. Now, the Regional Security Coordinating Council met all political parties, and in that meeting they had a joint security operation team involving the military, immigration, police, and the national security.
And this meeting is precipitated by what
happened? What happened in Banda? Right, good. And then you also have some deployment. I mean, just few deployment to Kaswa because of some of the issues that were coming from there.
Well, the Electoral Commission says political parties failed to adhere to rules and regulations it offered for a successful conduct of the voter registration exercise. According to the body, this is the reason for the rise in conflicts noticed in some registration centers. Director of Electoral Services for the EC, Dr. Boakye, was speaking to MFR Pau on JoyNews' Beyond the Lockdown show.
I will start by saying that if the political parties will abide by the rules, regulations governing any electoral activities in Ghana, Ghana will be the best place to run elections.
But did they do so?
Not at all. Not, and I will not tell lies. They did not.
They did not.
If they have done that, the tension, the attacks, and the rest that you are talking of would have taken place. And if you listen to Professor Reverend Dr. Puni Frimpong, he has been part of all activities, all the meetings, APAC meetings, testing the case and everything. So he is now an expert in electoral service as well as registration is concerned. So whatever he has said, I am 100% support of him.
But why do they bust? I'm sure you've been interacting with them. This busting issue, I've been trying to wrap my head around it. Why do they do it?
I mean, you read that recently when the Quaicoe, you heard what happened. The students are saying that they are being frustrated in the attempt to cheat the system. So that answers your question.
Well, let's do some more stories here on News Desk. Former President John Mahama has accused President Akufo-Addo of failing to consolidate Ghana's democracy through what he describes as bastardization and politicization of state institutions and agencies. According to the NDC's flagbearer, the failure of this NPP administration goes beyond the poor handling of the economy. He was speaking in a Facebook Live interview with TV XYZ.
Unfortunately, that has not been the case with this government. Many people have lost their jobs just based on political victimization people's banks have been closed just because of not having the right political color. You know, people's businesses have been collapsed just because they don't belong to the right political party. And what Bishop was saying was that, of course, your party votes for you in the elections, but once you are sworn in, part of the oath of office of the president says that you will do justice to all manner of persons. It means that all Ghanaians, you know, are your people, and you must treat them equally. That's what it says. And you realize that it's created a certain extremism in our political party engagement. And so I hear our own people, NDC, saying, oh, what they've done to us, when we come, we too, we shall revenge, you know. But I mean, what kind of nation will we build if we have this vicious cycle of, you know, government changing and seeking vengeance against each other? And so I'll say that we're all Ghanaians. Let's open the opportunities of this country to all Ghanaians. We cannot develop with half a nation. The two parties are almost, you know, have almost the same numbers.
The former president also accused the Akufo-Addo government of attempting to sell off 66% of Ghana's Quaicoe airport to a Turkish company. Aviation Minister Kofi Adda recently denied reports that the airport was for sale, but Mr. Mahama says the price at which the government is planning to sell the airport could easily be raised by selling lands around the facility.
Study of Quaicoe Airport was done and was valued, if I remember, at 5-point-something billion Ghana cedis. That is the valuation of the airport. It also had an insured value, and the insured value was somewhere in the region of 3 to 4 billion cedis. That's quite huge. Huge amount, because a lot of money had been invested in the airport, and it over the period, and it had become categorized as one of the 5 best airports in Africa. One of the 5 best airports. And then I saw a strange, you know, development where a Turkish company is being given a concession to take over the airport and run it. The concession is a disguise. Behind that, in the period of the concession, 66% of the ownership share of the airport will be transferred to the Turkish company at a cost of $70 million. Even if you compared to $600 million as we investment and a value of in excess of 5 billion cedis, I mean, for $70 million, we're giving 66% shares of our airport, you know, to a Turkish company. And so I said, I mean, we're against it. It is wrong. Every country's airport is its pride. You can have a management agreement to get somebody to manage it properly for you, you know, and based on that, you pay them a certain, you know, amount of money. But this is not an ordinary management agreement. They're going to get 2% of the revenues as management fee. But in addition, 66% of the ownership share of the airport is going to be transferred to them for $70 million. And I think that that is absolutely wrong. Even if you sold some of the lands around the airport, you'll be able to raise far more than $70 million. So if it's $70 we want, you know, I mean, the other ways of raising it, the value of the lands around the airport alone are far in excess of $70 million. Mr.
Mahama is also promising to create more than 1 million jobs if re-elected.
My message to Ghanaians is we need jobs, jobs, jobs. The central plank of my second coming as president is to deliver jobs to our young people. If we don't do this urgently, we have a time bomb ticking away. And so everything, every policy, every sector is going to be, you know, focused on creating jobs for young people. And so I'm coming out with a 1 million jobs plan. We'll create more than 1 million jobs, some in the public service, some in the private sector, and it's a very well thought out plan. It's going to come in our manifesto. It will be the central promise of our manifesto. We're going to take the mining sector and create hundreds of thousands of jobs in the mining sector. We have what we call a new gold initiative, and it is to leverage that natural resources that God has blessed us so bountifully with across the length and breadth of the country, from the north to the south. Everywhere you dig, you find gold. How do we harness that to create jobs for our people? That is going to be part of the central plank of what we do when we come back.
Excellence. You're watching News Desk with me, Bernice Abubeidu Lansa. Coming up shortly in business, ISA warns The suspension of Fiscal Responsibility Act for 2020 could affect Ghana's credit rating. Darryl Quaicoe is standing by with details. Do stay.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to Business. My name is Darryl Quaicoe, an economist with the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research. Professor Augustine Fosu is warning suspension of the Fiscal Responsibility Act could affect negatively the country's credit rating. Parliament approved the suspension of the rules for 2020 based on the COVID-19 pandemic, which has caused a budget deficit of more than 5%. Professor Fosu believes government may have to do a lot more work to convince ratings agencies about its commitment to fiscal prudence.
I think that so far Ghana has done quite well in terms of meeting the fiscal responsibility targets. Before COVID, we were actually moving quite close, around maybe 63%, and it was targeted to be met, actually. So COVID came along, and the target now cannot be met, no doubt about that. So as I indicated earlier, the 11 percentage points above the target to 76% of GDP. So we have to justify to the rest of the world that indeed COVID-19 is responsible for this difference. Otherwise, we can have adverse effects on the economy in terms of the interest rate premium that we have to pay in the capital market. And that, of course, means that there will be less funds available for capital expenditures for various programs, including free SHS and so on. It is quite critical that whatever funds that are utilized to meet the difference, to make up the difference, that those funds are utilized efficiently.
You're watching JoyNews. We are taking you straight to the headquarters of the NDC for the weekly briefing being addressed right now by the National Communications Officer, Sammy Gyamfi.
Freedom FM, Volta Power, Chigbodi FM, and Benigba Radio. Central Region, we are live on Coastal FM, Benya FM, Live FM, Sweet FM, Rich FM, Nice FM, Obruman Kuma FM, and Cape FM. In the Northern Region, we are live on Mind FM, Amana FM, Justice FM, Radio Tamale, Kesmi FM, Simli Radio, Asase FM, and Surupeli FM. The Bono East Region, we are live on Akina Radio, Winners FM, Fabia FM, Atobu FM, Alive FM, and Jima FM. Finally, in the Upper East Region, we are live on Word FM, Zeps FM, and Source FM. We acknowledge all these stations who are streaming this press conference live, and we really appreciate the assistance. On social media, you can follow us on the official NDC Ghana and NDC Communication Bureau pages on Twitter and YouTube. We are live also on Graphic Online's page on Facebook and Radio Go's page on Facebook. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the media. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the national headquarters of the NDC for the 10th edition of our weekly press briefing. Our strive to deepen democracy and accountability cannot bear any fruits without your esteemed platforms. And that is why we will continue to cherish our partnership with you. Today's briefing is part 2 corruption tracker series we launched a couple of weeks ago. You would recall that on the 8th of June 2020, we launched a corruption tracker initiative to track the status of the numerous corruption scandals that Ghanaians have witnessed and continue to witness under the Akufo-Addo government. Scandals which have occasioned huge financial losses to the state and robbed Ghanaians of the comforts they were promised in the run-up to the 2016 general elections. As I indicated that day, the NDC is deeply worried about the fact that resources which otherwise would have gone into developmental projects in order to uplift the poor are sadly going to line the pockets of greedy officials of the Akufo-Addo government. Indeed, the structural violence that corruption continues to wreak on our people cannot be underestimated, as corruption deprives the vast majority of our people an opportunity to a decent living. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the reason why we have decided to embark on the Corruption Tracker initiative to expose to the Ghanaian people the extent to which President Akufo-Addo and his corrupt appointees are milking the state coffers dry through grafts and sleaze. During our maiden press conference on this series, we spoke about the Boakye corruption scandal, in which 5 million liters of contaminated fuel was sold by Gov't to some unlicensed businesses in the year 2017 in clear violation of the MPA Act, the Public Procurement Law, under the watch of President Akufo-Addo. Also at that press conference, we condemned the fact that the proceeds of that unlawful transaction had not been paid into the state coffers by the beneficiary businesses, Uvimpina Energy and Zouk Oil. Ladies and gentlemen, against all hope, we had hoped that for once, President Akufo-Addo was going to act on the issues we raised by ensuring that the perpetrators of that daylight heist are prosecuted, or in the very least, ensure that the proceeds from the unlawful transaction were paid into the state coffers for the benefit of all Ghanaians. Unsurprisingly, and very characteristic of President Akufo-Addo, he has once again failed to uphold the national interest, such that as we speak, the proceeds of that illegal transaction have still not been paid into the state coffers. And the perpetrators of this naked thievery are still walking the streets of Ghana as free men, enjoying their loot, as the vast majority of Ghanaians continue to suffer. But despite the refusal of President Akufo-Addo to change his corruption clearing agent ways, duty calls on us as a responsible opposition to continue a corruption tracker series in order to shed light on the corrupt activities of this government and the extent of damage it is inflicting on the already constrained public purse and all sectors of the nation, so that Ghanaians can make an informed choice at the upcoming December polls. Today's corruption tracker series, Oppressor, will focus on one of the biggest scams ever perpetrated by any government against the Ghanaian people in the history of Ghana. I am talking about the gargantuan and stinking PDS corruption scandal that most of you are very familiar with. Given the possibility that some of you may have forgotten the facts of this matter, I wish to start by way of a brief recap of the sordid events that led to the PDS scam. Distinguished friends from the media, you may recall that the Akufo-Addo government sometime in July 2019 informed the Ghanaian public that it has suspended the ECG concession agreement with Power Distribution Services PDS Ghana over what they describe as, quote, material and fundamental breaches, unquote, relative to the demand guarantee provided by PDS to ECG. You may also recall that the Energy Minister, Honorable John Peter Amewu, and his deputies subsequently followed up and described the entire ECG PDS concession agreement as fraudulent. The key facts and events that led to this situation are as follows. Number one, the PDS concession agreement was the product of the American government's Compact 2, also known as the Power Compact, with the government of Ghana, which required that Ghana introduces private sector participation into ECG's retail business with the aim of improving the power distribution sector of the country. The Power Compact is a result of Ghana's successful implementation of Compact 1, a $547 million deal, which the Kufuor and Mills administrations between 2007 and 2012 used to undertake agricultural reforms and major infrastructural projects, such as the N1 highway project in Accra. The PSP concession agreement, approved by the Parliament of Ghana, contained 45 conditions precedent, which had to be fulfilled by PDS before they took over the 20 billion assets of ECG. Under condition precedent 24 and 31, PDS was required to provide ECG a payment security in the form of a letter of credit or demand guarantee with a value of $350 million from a bank. The purpose of this payment security was to safeguard the assets of ECG so that in case of default by PDS, Ghana, through ECG, could fall on sin to recover our losses. This precondition of a demand guarantee from a bank was therefore critical to the protection of the assets of ECG and the interests of Ghana under the ECG PDS concession agreement. Contrary to the effort of Ghana's parliament to protect the public purse, and in order to safeguard our interest in the concession, the Akufo-Addo government shamefully conspired to bend the rules for PDS by changing the key requirement of a bank guarantee to a less liquid instrument, an insurance guarantee, thereby jeopardizing the assets, the over 20 billion cedis assets, worth of assets of ECG. Ladies and gentlemen, this infamous and nation-wrecking decision was taken by high-ranking government officials, including the Vice President of the Republic, Dr. Bawumia, represented President Akufo-Addo at a meeting at the Jubilee House on 19th February 2019. Pursuant to these scandalous amendments by the Vice President, Dr. Bawumia, the Finance Minister, cousin to President Akufo-Addo, Ken Ofori-Atta, and the Esom Benjamin-led MIDA, PDS subsequently provided an insurance guarantee with dubious validity to ECG, as same was ascribed as fraudulent by Akut, a Qatar-based reinsurance company, which purportedly issued the said insurance guarantee. Ladies and gentlemen, according to the FTI investigative report on this matter, which was commissioned by MIDA at the instance of the U.S. government, crucial advice from Ghana's own financial advisors on this transaction for the necessary due diligence to be done before the said insurance guarantee was accepted by the Ministry of Finance and ECG, and the assets of ECG handed over to PDS was ignored. In short, the over 20 billion assets of ECG were handed over to a fraudulent company called PDS by the Akufo-Addo government on 1st of March 2019 on the basis of a fraudulent insurance guarantee. It is worthy of note that under the guise of promoting local content, 51% of the shares in this fraudulent company PDS were allotted to companies belonging to friends and cronies of President Akufo under very shady circumstances in furtherance of his state capture agenda. As was found by the FTI investigative report, these local companies have no technical capacity in power retail and did not demonstrate any financial capacity to manage a critical national asset, such as the 20 billion worth of assets of ECG. Indeed, the FTI report found that PDS could not even raise the needed funds from equity contributions of its shareholders to pay the so-called insurance guarantee it claims to have secured from our Gov't, such that out of the $12.25 million that was charged by Carbank to PDS as fees for raising the fraudulent guarantee, only $1 million, equivalent to 8% of the amount, was funded by an equity contribution from a PDS shareholder, Philip Ayusu of TG Energy Solutions. $7 million of that amount, constituting 57%, was funded by a loan that was advanced by Carbank to another PDS shareholder, Santa Baron Ventures. However, this loan was repaid from operating cash flows, that is, electricity bills collected by PDS after the transfer date from UI. The balance of $4.25 million was also paid directly from operating cash flows generated by PDS after the transfer date. In other words, what I mean by operating cash flows is the electricity bills electricity consumers paid to PDS within the period that the concession agreement was in force. And all these damning findings are contained in the FTI report commissioned by MIDA under the instance of the U.S. government. Subsequent attempts by the finance minister, a cousin to President Akufo-Addo, Ken Ofori-Atta, to restructure the shareholding of PDS after the deal was sealed, with the aim of diluting and appropriating the shares of the original shareholders for other cronies of the president, is what lit the spark for the whole PDS inferno. As some of you may recall, the original Ghanaian shareholders rebelled and refused to participate in this charade. It is this defiance that outraged the Akufo-Addo faction and occasioned the suspension and subsequent termination of the PDS concession agreement. It is instructive to note that, ladies and gentlemen, this fraudulent entity called PDS collected a total of over 1.5 billion Ghana cedis in the form of electricity tariffs from electricity consumers from 1st March 2019 to 18th October 2019, when the concession agreement was in force. As a matter of fact, it was part of these monies, as I've already indicated. That is about $11.25 million that PDS used to finance the insurance guarantee from the Qatar-based reinsurance firm, Quaicoe, which was later found to be fraudulent and invalid. Finally, in recapping the key facts that led to the PDS scam, ladies and gentlemen, the cancellation of the PDS concession agreement by the Akufo-Addo government, in the manner it happened, occasioned the abrupt termination of the whole MCC Ghana Power Compact by the U.S. government. Consequently, the U.S. government withdrew the second tranche amount of $190 million, equivalent to 10 billion Ghana cedis they had allotted to Ghana for the improvement of the power sector of the country under the Power Compact. Overall, Ghana lost about $1.8 billion as a result of the greed and avarice of President Akufo and his corrupt family and friends cabal, who sought to appropriate the over 20 billion Ghana cedis worth of assets of ECG for themselves. And when I talk about total financial loss of $1.8 billion, talking about, first of all, the $190 million the U.S. government withdrew. That is the second tranche of $190 million they withdrew because of how poorly we manage the Power Compact. Two, I'm referring to the $500 million budgetary support the U.S. government had committed to advance to the government of Ghana, which was also withdrawn as a result of this scandal. I'm also referring to the $400 million Ghana lost under the regional compact, because subsequent to the Power Compact, we were to benefit from the regional compact, under which the U.S. government was prepared to give us $400 million for other developmental projects. We lost all these huge sums of money and many more as a result of the greed of President Akufo and his family and friends cabal, who were determined to appropriate the assets of ECG at all cost. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, these are the sudden and sad events that occasioned the PDS corruption scandal. However, the real tragedy of this scandal is summed up by these nagging questions, which are begging for answers. And I wish, through you, the media, who are the fourth state of the realm, that government will provide answers to these nagging questions. Number one, since the Minister for Energy, Honorable John Peter Miwo, told Ghanaians that the insurance guarantee PDS presented for the takeover of the over 20 billion Ghana cedis worth of assets of ECG was fraudulent, a fact corroborated by our court, a Qatar-based company which allegedly issued the said guarantee. Who were those who perpetrated this fraud against Ghanaians? And what actions has President Akufo-Addo taken to ensure that they answer for this fraud? Who are those? Peter Miwo says that the transaction was fraudulent. The insurance guarantee which was presented to government for the takeover of the assets of ECG was fraudulent, on the basis of which the concession agreement was terminated. And who are those who perpetrated this fraud? And what has President Akufo-Addo done to them? Because we know that fraud is a crime under our laws and punishable through criminal prosecutions and convictions thereof. Number two, who are the state actors who neglected to perform their fiduciary responsibility to the state by failing to conduct the necessary due diligence on the insurance guarantee presented by PDS? And what action has President Akufo-Addo taken against them as we speak? Number 3, can the Akufo-Addo government tell Ghanaians the total amount of monies PDS collected from electricity consumers in the form of electricity bills from the 1st of March 2019 to the 18th of October 2019, when the concession agreement was still in force? Per our estimation and from our checks, over 1.5 billion Ghana cedis was collected by PDS. But we have not heard any official communication from the Akufo-Addo government or from President Akufo-Addo himself, who touts himself as a paragon of transparency and accountability on this matter. Ghanaians and electricity consumers in general deserve to know the amount of monies we paid to that fraudulent entity called PDS. The fourth question we would want to ask is, have those monies been accounted for? And if yes, have same been audited? 5, if PDS has accounted for those funds collected, we know they have not, but if they have accounted for those funds collected, the same has been audited, then can President Akufo-Addo and his government publish those accounts for the benefit of you, the media, who are the fourth estate of the realm, and the entire Ghanaian people? Ladies and gentlemen of the media, what we know is that as we speak, the perpetrators of the PDS scam are still walking the streets of Ghana as free men, despite the fact that government itself described the transaction as fraudulent. No arrests nor prosecutions have taken place till date. The lives of Vice President Dr. Bawumia, the Finance Minister Ken Uforiata, and the Eson Benjamin-led MIDA, who aided, abetted, and facilitated this scam on the people of Ghana, which has occasioned a huge financial loss to the state, have not been held to account for the roles the individual or jointly played in this scam. Also, cronies of President Akufo-Addo, such as Mr. Philip Ayensu, the Baba, I'm sure you remember him, an appointee of President Akufo-Addo on the NCA board, who was the chairman of PDS, and the other directors of the local partners in the company, who perpetrated what government itself alleges to be fraud on the people of Ghana, have all been left off the hook. Even more bizarre and scandalous, ladies and gentlemen, is the fact that till date, PDS, a company made up of friends and cronies of President Akufo-Addo, were gifted the 20 billion Ghana cedis worth of assets of ECG on the basis of a fraudulent insurance guarantee, and operators saying for more than 7 months have not been able to account for the over 1.5 billion Ghana cedis they collected from electricity consumers in this country. Also, all calls for the accounts of PDS to be audited by an independent and internationally reputable audit firm have been ignored by President Akufo-Addo. And so as we speak today, Ghanaians, and I'm sure even you in the media, do not even know how much was collected by PDS from electricity consumers within the duration of the concession, and whether those funds have been properly accounted for and audited. Friends from the media, it is these plain acts of thievery and corruption that has entrenched President Akufo-Addo as the chief corruption clearing agent. It is glaringly clear that President Akufo-Addo has no intention to pursue the prosecution of persons responsible for the PDS scam and the recovery of the billions of Ghana cedis he collected from electricity companies. We in the NDC are not in the least surprised at the nonchalant posture of President Akufo-Addo on this matter. We have always known that President Akufo-Addo can neither be trusted, punish the perpetrators, nor ensure that the monies collected by PDS are refunded to the state, because he and his corrupt government are complicit and neck deep in this scam. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, never in the history of Ghana have we seen this level of corruption and negativity like we are witnessing under the reign of President Akufo-Addo today. Despite promising to protect the public purse, President Akufo-Addo has supervised the biggest rape of the public purse in Ghana's history. This has led to a situation where millions of money we should have gone into the provision of schools, hospitals, roads, potable drinking water, jobs, and other critical investments in the productive sectors of the economy for the benefit of all Ghanaians have been diverted into the pockets and bank accounts of a few selfish officials of the Akufo-Addo government, while the masses continue to suffer. Friends from the media, these acts of naked robbery and the cover-up of same by President Akufo-Addo as pertains to the PDS scam is what has entrenched President Akufo-Addo as a chief clearing agent of corruption. It shields his corrupt appointees from punishment. This is why we have always maintained that President Akufo-Addo is the biggest enabler and promoter of corruption in his government. Today, the incorruptibility tag he was clothed with by his party communicators and some elements in the media prior to the 2016 general elections has turned out to be a ruse which was presented to Ghanaians for their votes and nothing more. Ghanaians should not and will never forgive President Akufo-Addo for supervising this stinking PDS scam, which has caused the nation huge financial loss of over $1.8 billion and the numerous corruption scandals, the other numerous corruption scandals that has engulfed this government in the last 3.5 years. We, in the NDC, call on the good people of Ghana to kick out the corrupt Akufo-Addo government regime and vote for the John and Jane ticket come 7 December 2020. This country needs leaders who are honest and incorruptible. Those are none other than His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and his running mate, Professor Nana Jane Achema, who have dedicated themselves to serving this country with honor and integrity in all the positions they have served in. They have individually served. As President Mahama has already announced, when he is given the opportunity to serve this country again on 7 January 2021, inshallah, he shall wage a ruthless war against corruption in all sectors of our nation through an anti-corruption crusade dubbed Operation Sting. Ghanaians can be rest assured that under the Operation Sting crusade, the next NDC Mahama government shall ensure that all monies, here I'm referring to the over 1.5 billion Ghana cedis revenue PDS collected from the people of this country. President Mahama will ensure that all these monies collected by PDS from electricity consumers are properly accounted for and ensure the retrieval of any amounts misappropriated by the company. They are promoters and accomplices for the state. Also, the next NDC Mahama administration shall ensure the arrest and criminal prosecution of all persons who directly or indirectly played roles in this stinging PDS scandal and the other several corruption scandals we have witnessed under the watch of President Akufo-Addo in the last 3.5 years. As President Mahama has demonstrated, or as President Mahama demonstrated between 2012 and 2016, when he ensured the prosecution of his own appointees and party members in the youth, and no acts of corruption in any form, whether by Mahama appointees or political opponents, will go unpunished. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the only way we can succeed in the fight against corruption. This is the only way we can save Ghana of the millions of monies that government appointees often steal from the people to enrich themselves. And this is the only way Ghana can stamp out the canker of corruption, which undoubtedly has been the bane of the country's development for so many years. Above all, ladies and gentlemen of the media, President Mahama shall ensure the judicious utilization of state resources for the development of the country through far-reaching policies such as the Agenda 1 Million Jobs policy, the free primary health care program, which is the Big Push policy, which will inject an amount of $10 billion into infrastructural projects to dualize key roads, complete the remainder of the 200 community day senior high schools, finish all abandoned hospital and road projects, among others, for the benefit of all Ghanaians and not a select few. Thank you very much for your attention, ladies and gentlemen. At this stage, we shall open the floor for questions. If you have questions, before I do a quick summary in the account language, if you have questions, kindly raise up your hand. And is that microphone working? Okay, so we'll bring the microphone to you so that you can ask your question. I can see a hand here. You mention your name, your media house, and you ask your question. No, good.
Yes, good morning. My name is Gov't TV Africa. I want to find out from you. 2020, December 7, 2020 is not a settled. There is no absolute guarantee that the NDC may annex and form the next government. So if President Mahama says that he will tackle corruption from that point, it is actually a probability because he will not do. So in the event that the NDC does not go far, how then is it going to ensure that all of these incidences of corruption are decisively dealt with? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other question? I can see a hand. Any other question? Yes, I can see a hand there. If you can give me the microphone. Please, can you come to the front and ask your question?
My name is Quaicoe from Class Media. I want to know something. When you were speaking, you made mention about some of these allegations and corrupt practices by the government, citing the PDS scandal. And you also stated that Ghanaians should work hard and vote so that the next Mahama administration can come to power in the ballot box. Now, we want to find out if the NBC can do something different, what to do, even before they come to power. Can there be any legal actions? And then with that, they will be able to prosecute some of these offenders. That's what I want to make.
Okay, thank you. Any other question?
My name is Mahama, and I work with JoyNews. Yesterday, His Excellency, the former President, Mahama, spoke and I put some briefly. He said that our own people in the NDC are saying that if we gain power again, we will track all these people down and prosecute them. But that's when he said that if that cycle goes on, then it means that the country does not have any future. Until the next Mahama administration will do away with political vindictiveness. But you've been talking about tracking down all people that you got corrupt in the NPP government and prosecute them in the next Mahama administration. How do you reconcile what the second Mahama said yesterday and what you said?
All right, thank you very much. Any other question? Okay, I think that should be all. So I will quickly answer the questions and then I will crave your indulgence to remain calm as I do a quick summary of the presentation I just did in the Akan language for purposes of the Akan stations here. The first question was that 2020 is not a certainty, it's a probability. And so if we say that we are waiting to win power before we prosecute these people, what can we do whilst we are in opposition? My brother, what I can tell you is that the NDC's victory in the upcoming 2020 general elections, by the grace of God and in all humility, is a certainty. All across the country today, there is a palpable wind of change blowing because Ghanaians are crying for rescuing. Ghanaians are yearning for the return of John Dramani Mahama to continue his good works. Ghanaians are tired of the failed promises of this government. Ghanaians are tired of the hardships we are witnessing under this government. Ghanaians are tired of the vindictive collapse of businesses and jobs under this government. Ghanaians are tired with the unprecedented levels of corruption and nepotism we have witnessed in the last 3.5 years. Ghanaians are tired with alarming levels of unemployment and the decline of all sectors of the economy President Akufo-Addo has supervised in the last 3.5 years. They are clamoring for leaders who are sensitive to their plight, leaders who have the right vision and the right solutions for the hydra-headed challenges confronting the nation. They are looking for leaders who are humble, honest, leaders who can be trusted, and leaders who serve the people with humility, honor, and character. And like I said, that is none other than His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and his able running mate, Professor Nana Jane Pokwajama. And so we know in our hearts of hearts, without a shadow of doubt, and I know you know too, that the victory of the NDC is coming again. So it is a certainty. But you see, what we must understand is that the scandals I've spoken about, for example, the Boakye scandal we addressed at the maiden edition of this Corruption Tracker series, and the one we just addressed today, the PDS scandal, are criminal offenses and under the Criminal Code of Ghana, as well as the 1992 Constitution, specifically Article 88. The prosecutorial powers for such criminal offenses are vested in the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, who is a principal legal advisor to the President and his government. And so no individual can go to court to prosecute any corrupt official or any government official who has committed a crime. At best, you can petition investigative bodies, and we have done so. We've petitioned Shraj, we've petitioned the Auditor General, in different corruption cases. But the bottom line is that some of these agencies and their leaders who have taken an uncompromising stance against corruption and are investigating acts of corruption, trying to stamp out this canker, are being fought, being hounded by President Akufo-Addo. That is why today Mr. Dumelovo has been compelled to proceed on leave. That is why institutions which are serious about the corruption fight are being politicized and bastardized, like President Mahama indicated over the weekend. And like he indicated, the next NDC Mahama government will ensure that will restore the dignity and independence of such state actors and state institutions, and give them all the support they need to fight corruption of all forms, no matter whose ox is God. And so that is what we will do when, by the grace of God, we are sworn into office on the 7th of January 2021. But in opposition, that is not to say that in opposition we don't have any responsibility at all in the fight against corruption. We have a responsibility in the fight against corruption. And that is why we are embarking on this Corruption Tracker series. Ours is to keep government on its toes. Ours is to ensure that Ghanaians are being served with responsible leadership. Ours is to ensure that the public purse is being protected. And by engaging you at these press briefings and igniting national, conversations around these issues, what we are doing is that we are shedding light on wrongdoing. We are shedding light on acts of thievery and corruption, some of which President Akufo-Addo would wish that you and I forget, because he has covered them up. We are shedding light on these things, putting the spotlight on government so that government will act. And so that those who are thinking of engaging in similar corrupt acts will be minded by the fact that the opposition is watching and the media, who are the fourth estate of the realm, are watching. That is what we can do now in opposition. Advocacy, okay, petitioning constitutional and other investigative bodies to investigate such acts, and exposing these corrupt acts through the Ghanaian people so that they can make an informed choice come 7 December 2020. So I think I've also answered the question by the class media reporter who asked whether the NDC can do anything whilst we are in opposition. Yes, we can do something, and we are doing that. That is the reason for this press conference. Finally, our brother asked that President Mahama, a brother from JoyNews, I think, asked that President Mahama has said that officials and appointees of the current government who are involved in the numerous corruption scandals we have cited will not be prosecuted. I'm not sure President Mahama said that.
He said that he's going to do away with it.
Yeah, so what we are talking about is not political vindictiveness. Political vindictiveness is when a government in power uses power to hound innocent people. Okay? That is when you use power to persecute people who have committed no wrongs against the state unjustly, like President Akufo-Addo is doing, destroying people's businesses, collapsing people's jobs, okay, and hounding people who have committed no crimes, when the real criminals are being pampered in his government. President Mahama can be trusted to build a united, peaceful, country where the rights of all persons, including MPP people, will be respected. But that is not to say that if people have committed crimes against the state, people have stolen monies, like this PDS scandal we are speaking today, okay? A fraudulent company presents a fraudulent insurance guarantee, takes over the over 20 billion Ghana cedis worth of assets of ECG, operates it for a period of about 7 months, collects over 1.5 billion Ghana cedis from you and I, and all electricity consumers in the process. To date, they have not been made to account for that. And those who perpetrated that fraud are still walking free. Those who were responsible for that criminal negligence, those who failed to perform their fiduciary responsibility to the state by ensuring that the necessary due diligence were conducted on the said insurance guarantee, like Dr. Bawumia, the finance minister, and all that, are still walking the streets of Ghana as free men. Okay, and the directors of PDS, like the Baba, Philip Ayensu, okay, Akufo-Addo's friend, and an appointee of President Akufo-Addo who sits comfortably on the NCA board. They are today enjoying the loot. They are enjoying all the monies they collected from you and I. And so posterity and Ghanaians will not forgive President Mahama and the future NDC government if we allow these people to go free. They must account for the monies they have stolen. Where necessary, refunds will have to be made into the state coffers. And more importantly, prosecutions will have to take place to serve as a deterrent to all. And like I said, this is not a standard President Mahama will apply to only the NPP. He has demonstrated in the past that he has a commitment and the willingness and the ability to punish his own appointees who engage in similar corruption scandals. The JIDA scandal I cited, and the NSS scandal, and the several other corruption scandals I'm sure you are aware of, bears this fact out. And so it is not going to be like, it's going to be a double-edged sword. It's not going to be like, oh, like what President Akufo-Addo is doing. See no evil, hear no evil once it involves your government appointees. Be a clearing agent, whitewashing your corrupt appointees all the time, defending them even when they have stolen from the state. President Mahama is not going to shield any corrupt official in his government, but he will ensure that the laws of this country are allowed to work, that those who engage in corruption are punished to serve as a deterrent to corrupt government officials who, have been milking the state coffers dry since God knows when. That is the only way, ladies and gentlemen, we can win the fight against corruption. It is by punishing corruption. That is what President Mahama would do. Okay, so thank you very much for your questions. At this stage, I will do a brief summary in the P language. Yemi ano nsem trofo a anope yehia e wo ha. Mebo ni taw na enen komo a yede atomo animi mabo ne tofa. Ene ye frame a ye dwumadi a yato ne din corruption tracker series ne fa etoso mienu ena ene anope yede bremo. Se mo be kaya on the 8th of June yene mo ye nhyiamu ena na ye corruption tracker no ye di kan a ye kan kata ahyehyɛ no dream asɛm kɛseɛ bi esi o my Ghana mu in the year 2017 ho asɛm ɛyɛ the Boakye corruption scandal. Ɔmanpanyin Akufo-Addo ne n'aban ɛtɔn Ghana agyapadeɛ 5 million liters of contaminated fuel ɛde ma unlicensed businesses bi moving peanut energy ne soup oil a ɔmo de tietia Ghana a public procurement law so the MPA law so na bisi nɛ ɛho sika koraa no ɔmo ntua nto ɔman futuo sɛ ne bɛyɛ a yɛbɛnya sika ɛde ayɛ mpuntunuma na Ghanafoɔ nyinaa anya so ɛmfa so. Yɛdeɛ yɛwɔ position yɛasɛdeɛ ne sɛ deɛ ɛnkɔ yie deɛ ɛha ɔman no deɛ di ɔman ni nya wɔn a ɔbɔ aban no ho korɔ no a yɛwɔ ho adanseɛ no brano yɛne mo bɛhyia yɛde abɛtɔ abɔnten na no aboa ma yɛtu saa kata hyehyɛ ne kɔyɛ ne nyinaa asɛm. Nti even though sɛ yɛnim sɛ kata hyehyɛ ne kɔyɛ a ɛkɔ so no Ɔmanpanyin Akufo-Addo ne nsa ne ti ne nan ne baabi ahyɛ mu bi no yɛde ba abɔnten sɛ yɛbɛhwɛ whether for the first time at least obetu saa Boakye corruption scandal no ho anammɔn bia. But te sɛ deɛ mu nyinaa mu nim ne bisi nɛ ɔntu ho anammɔn bia. Nti ɔmo a ɔmotɔn saa fa ho no abrɔman follow public procurement law, ɔmo follow MPA Act, na ɔmotɔn de ma unlicensed businesses na bisi nɛ ɔmo afa ho sika di